I'm rated 1700 and I'm going to review your game and tell you how to improve. Let's go. So welcome to episode 1. Today we're reviewing a game from Nathy Berg, who was rated 676, playing a 30-minute game. And before we jump in, I want to mention to you guys that I also have an upcoming Chess Strategies 101 series that I think is going to be really helpful for a lot of you guys. A lot of the concepts in that series come up in today's video. So make sure you subscribe if you want to catch those videos. All right, so first of all, Nathy, I wanted to let you know that playing long-form games is great. So I commend you for playing the 30-minute games. I just finished reading this book that's called Perpetual Chess Improvement. It's kind of what I would say is the Bible on chess improvement, and long-form games is the number one most important thing to get better at chess. So good job there. Now, I have some main notes of things to focus on. Before we jump into the game, I want to give you guys these bullet points up front so you have these in your mind. And these are going to be really common in a lot of the games at this level. So number 1, these are my main broad strokes notes. And by the way, we're going to do 2 run-throughs of the game. We're going to run through once with the broad strokes important concepts, and then a second run-through with some more detailed finesse ideas that are maybe a little more advanced. All right, let's do it. So main notes. Number 1. Finish developing. So finish the development, get all the pieces into the attack before you start doing pawn storms. Number 2, plan a safe place for your king. So you have to pick one side or the other, right? Castle, queen side, castle, king side. Make sure one of them is safe. Keep your pawns close on one side. Number 3, there was a bit of a tactical blunder in the game. The solution for this, which you may or may not already be doing, is just to do puzzles every day. And I have a tip for that later on, which I'll get to. And number 4, my upcoming series on basically the chess fundamentals, I think it's going to be really helpful for everyone watching. All right, so let's walk through the game. So we start off with king's pawn, and we are met with the Sicilian defense. Nathy plays c4. I'll talk about this on the second run through, but this is fine, totally fine. And play continues. These are pretty normal developing moves. In general, with this structure, it's going to become fairly closed because these pawns will be shut down. So yeah, we'll talk about this more on the second run through, but this is all pretty normal stuff, pretty good. The knight comes in, we take. This is the first moment where I have a comment. So why don't you guys pause the video and tell me, how do you feel about this move, especially given in light of the main notes that I presented at the top of this video? So the reason this isn't my favorite move ever is we still have a lot of developing to do. So let's get the bishop out, let's get the knight out, let's castle, let's get the rooks onto some files. I would first want to complete the development here before we start doing pawn stuff. So that's my main note. That's going to be a really common theme at this level. All right, guys, one more note on that, because I told you development is important and that you should do it, but I didn't really explain why. And there's kind of 2 main reasons why, I would say. So number 1, you want to leverage your entire army against the opponent. So like, let's imagine we're having a street brawl and I got 10 guys on my team and you got 5 guys on your team. Who's going to win? Well, probably the guy with 10, right? So same thing here. You want to leverage your entire army against the opponent. So you need to get all the pieces into the game. The second thing, which I'm going to denote it like this, you don't want to get caught with your pants down. And what do I mean by that? Well, right now our position is very disconnected and disjointed. So like this rook is hanging, this rook is stuck in the corner, the bishop's not doing anything, our king is vulnerable. Later on, there maybe could have been like some checks along this diagonal, and then we wouldn't be able to castle. There were like a lot of problems here that we need to solve. So we need to develop a certain amount of cohesion in the position where the pieces are working together efficiently. So we need to castle, get the pieces out, connect the rooks so the rooks defend each other. That's very important. And then you can start going for the attack. And you'll really get a feel for this if you want to watch any of the GM lectures on the St. Louis Chess Channel. If you just YouTube that, some videos will pop up. There are a lot of really excellent lectures where they go through, grandmaster level games and explain all the thought process and the moves. And you really get a feel for how important development is as you start to play stronger opponents. So yeah, I highly recommend that if you're willing to, watch a 30, 40-minute video that's a little more focused on education. Also, I'll leave you with one last saying, which I got from Daniel Naroditsky. I'm not sure who the original author is, but he's mentioned it on his speedruns, which is, in chess, you should prepare slow and attack fast. And by that, they mean, get get all the pieces out, get everything in order, get the rooks on open files, then you go do your attack, because now everything's primed, everything's efficient, it's cohesive, and you can utilize your whole army against your opponent, and they might not be fast enough in defending themselves. So that's the philosophy. That's why you should really prioritize development. And now at this moment, first of all, we're making a lot of pawn moves still, and we still have development to do. But an additional question for Nathy and for the audience: where is your king going to be safe this game? So are you still planning to castle here, and are you going to be safe if you keep moving all these pawns? Are you going to leave your king in the center, or are you going to castle this way? I would advise against castling this way. It's just way too open. You could maybe get away with staying in the center here because the position is kind of closed, but long term, you probably want to still castle this way, which Nathy does later on. But once you start moving these pawns too far, you're kind of losing your shield. So usually you want to keep the shield close. Okay, so play continues. I'll have some comments about this in the second run through. Now Nathy castles, and now here the knight finally comes in. So now we're pretty much fully developed. We still could improve. Maybe this rook could come into an open file or something like that. But finally, we've gotten basically complete development. Now here's another moment where I have a comment. So why don't you guys pause? Tell me what are some pros and cons of this move? Is it justified? Is it not? How do we feel about this move? So in general, like I kind of mentioned before, once you start extending the pawns in front of your king, you're throwing your shield out away from you, right? So this is very weakening long-term for our king because we don't have our shield anymore. In some scenarios, this can be justified. And actually, I think Nathy almost had enough justification here. The queen and the bishop are nearby. So, maybe we can get some things open and do some stuff. Intuitively, I feel like we don't quite have enough here. But, the king could step up. The rook could come to an open file. It's you can make an argument for it. But intuitively, to me, this feels like just overextending and weakening the king a little too much. And it goes back to, where is our king going to be safe long term? Once we play this move, our king is not safe long term, as we will see as the game progresses. All right, guys, I forgot to mention what to do in this position. So I told you what not to do, so I don't like this pawn push. But so what should we have done instead? This actually brings up another concept that I should have mentioned in the main ideas, which is you kind of want to decide which side of the board are you going to attack on. So are you going to attack on this half of the board? Or are you going to attack on this half of the board? So queen side or king side. In this position, I think it makes sense for white to try to kind of sort of attack on the queen side and leave the king side alone. So the move that jumped out to me first would be rook c1. Put a rook on the open file. That's where rooks belong. In retrospect, though, or giving it a little bit more thought, because the next move in the game is a very active move that we'll look at in a second. White could have also gone rook to b1. And now you have the rooks here. You can maybe try to make a pass pawn and get some things going on over there. Meanwhile, you just leave your king side alone. You're safe enough, and you leave this be, and then you focus on this side. You generally want to avoid having too many chaotic things going on both sides of the board because it's just not as effective as if you kind of tidy one up and then go bring your full force behind the other one. So the lesson is choose one side of the board to attack on. So good move by the opponent, very active. So the queen is now basically double attacking these. They're threatening to win this pawn, but also threatening to take the knight. So there isn't really a good solution here. Nathy defends the knight, which makes sense. Now the rook takes. Now Nathy plays this move. Why don't you guys pause and tell me what is the problem with this move? So it's not so much the problem over here. It's more a problem on this side of the board. So what is black going to play now? So what happened in the game, and the best move is rook takes, rook takes, and then now the knight gets picked off, right? So if we back up a step here, the threat in this position is black is threatening to remove the defender. So this rook has two jobs right now. This is also referred to as an overworked piece. So when the rook takes, after this move, rook takes, Rook takes. They've removed our defender of the knight, and they pick up the knight for free. So this was just a little bit of a tactical blunder. Totally fine at this level. The solution for this is basically to do puzzles every day and just keep working on your chess. Not a problem at all. You know, this is going to happen all the time. Totally no big deal. So what should we have done instead in this position? Simplest thing is just take the rook. So we take, queen takes, and they're attacking our pawn. We can try to defend. You know, they might bring this rook over and win this eventually. But we didn't lose our knight. So that's the main thing to avoid. Also, if we go back a step at this stage, there was actually, the computer found there is a move to save both the pawn and the knight. You guys can pause if you want to try to find it. I don't know if I would have seen this actually. It is queen to d1. So queen d1, adding a defender here, adding a defender here. Kind of counterintuitive to do this. And, you know, I don't know the long-term plan from here. I guess maybe you try to untangle, get the knight out, and then maybe bring this rook over to here, something like that. So, all right, that's it. Back to the video. But we keep fighting from here, which Nathi did a really good job of. They fought to the bitter end here. So they take the pawn. This is all good. Although, actually, now that I look in this position, I guess we could have taken the knight. So for next time, let's take the knight first. And now the pawn is double attacked by the bishop and queen. Nathi defends it. The knight gets a nice fork here and forces the exchange. And basically at this point in the game, I mean, it's basically over. You know, our pawns are in disarray. They're up a piece. They're up 3 points. We don't really have counterplay. Our king is unsafe long-term, unshielded. It's basically over. So, but, you know, you keep fighting. You keep trying to look for chances, look for anything. So I commend Nathi for keeping up the pressure here. And this was a good job. They realized, like, hey, I can maybe support this pawn and maybe try to get some promotion ideas, do something. You know, they looked for that glimmer of hope and they found it. Good job. Here, just a little bit of an oversight, you know, blunder. The rook, you can't move the rook here right away. That's okay, though. I mean, there's no other, it's hard to know what to do here because you want to push this pawn, but if you move the rook away, then the bishop takes it. So, you know, it's a little tricky here in this position, but we keep playing. And good move by the opponent to force the queen trade here. So now, basically our goal in this position now is some sort of stalemate draw type thing. So Nathi does the right thing here in trying to trade off these pawns. So now if black messes up here, these pawns can't move, right? So if black messes up and puts us into a stalemate position, it's a draw, right? So this kind of almost happens. So let's see what happens here. So they're hunting us down. Now in this position, what would you guys play? So there is a mate in 1. So rook takes is mate in 1. This is what happened in the game. But if black messes up, let's say black goes like bishop, black, because you know we're threatening. We're threatening to take the bishop, sort of. The pawn's pinned, but let's say black messes up and plays pawn here, bishop here. I mean, this is all of a sudden this is a stalemate and it's a draw. So good job, Nathi. You created a possible stalemate. Excellent job. However, the opponent found the checkmate, but that's okay. So overall, that was our broad strokes run through. And now we're going to do a quick coffee break. All right, first of all, I want to give a big thank you to Nathi Berg for being the first victim to volunteer a game. I made a post on Reddit to the Chess Beginners subreddit, and Nathi was the only one who commented. So come on, guys, send me your games. I need more ammo here. I need more games to review. So send me an email. I'll put the info down below. We need to keep this going. I think this is going to really help a lot of you guys. So also, I promised you a tip on puzzles and how to incorporate them and do them better. My main number one tip to do them every day is to bookmark them on your browser, like at the top. Just have something that says puzzles that goes straight to either chess.com or Chess Tempo is another really good website for unlimited free puzzles. Chess.com, you need a membership to have unlimited. So yeah, bookmark that like on your browser. Also, like on my Chrome, when I open up a blank page, that's one of the main bookmarked things. Is like I can just click puzzles, right? So that whenever I'm bored, I click on that, and then I'm doing puzzles. I'm having fun, enjoying it, getting better at chess, keeping up my calculation visualization skills. All right, guys. So when I open up a fresh Chrome tab, this is what it looks like, right? So look right there, boom, puzzles. Also right here on my bookmarks, right there, boom, puzzles. Whenever you're bored, click them, do them. They're fun. They're awesome. You learn cool stuff. You get a rating. You try to boost your rating. It's great, guys. Also, the book I mentioned at the top of the video, Perpetual Chess Improvement by Ben Johnson. In that book, there are 4 pillars of chess improvement. The third one is tactics and basically solving chess puzzles. That book also talks a little bit about neuroplasticity, and actually I've been reading a bunch of other books about neuroplasticity recently. And it talks about the importance of some sort of consistency or seeing the chessboard a lot, several days kind of in a row or very frequently. So for example, it's more effective to play chess or do puzzles 30 minutes, 6 days out of the week, as opposed to like 1 day for 3 hours. Even though the amount of time is the same, it's just how our brain works. So make chess puzzles a part of your daily life, and they're super fun anyway, so it's great. All right, guys, now we're going to do our second run through of the game, and this one's going to be a little bit more advanced. I'll throw, a few more ideas here. I'll point out some things that someone maybe more in like the 12 to 1500 bracket might be thinking about, So already on move 2 here, this isn't really like a main line here. The main thing in Sicilian defense, or the main line, is like knight out, they go here, we go here, we take. Alternatively, you could play what's called like a closed Sicilian defense. But c4 is not like terrible or anything, but it's probably, especially after they match us, it's going to lead to like a pretty closed position. And you have to know how to kind of like break through that. So like the main break would probably be kind of an f4 break at some point after you've already like castled. We'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, I recommend looking up some openings. Maybe Nathy, maybe you've done that already, maybe not. Where I learned openings, so I was learning chess or like really getting into it like 10 years ago or so. And all the best opening content at that time was from the chess website on YouTube. So the channel is called the chess website. Every video would start off with this guy who'd be like, "Hey, it's Kevin from the chess website," and then he shows you like a bunch of openings that are all really cool, and he gives you, it doesn't go super in depth, just gives you kind of the top level. Here are the main ideas in these openings. So I recommend that, Nathy, just to kind of check out some more stuff. Maybe you've done that already, maybe not. But you could also look up like how to crush the Sicilian as white or something to see how to play against the Sicilian defense. Okay, now here with b3, I personally probably wouldn't play b3 here, because the idea with b3 is we're gonna fianchetto, right? The problem, as I just mentioned in this opening, is that we get this super locked pawn structure where they have like a double clamp here, like you can never really push this pawn. And so having the bishop here, it's actually not super effective. So if it were me, I probably wouldn't have played b3. I probably would have gone like d3. Here, let's just do some moves. Maybe something like this, and then castle, and then like, some things like this. The knight can come in, something like that. So yeah, fianchettoing, putting your bishop on the long diagonal, is often a good thing, but in this specific game, I think it's probably not as effective. Again, at this level, it probably doesn't matter, but I'm giving you some slightly higher level ideas to think about. And here, same thing. So, I don't think the bishop is going to be very effective on this diagonal because our pawn chain is stuck as well. So if it were me, I probably would have gone like bishop e2, then just castle, and then play chess from there. So let's maybe like do some moves. So castle, let's say, so they go there. And then I also might try to do this f4 pawn break that, like I mentioned earlier. You could go knight here. It's a little sketchy because when they move their knight, you're attacked. But oftentimes what I'll do in these types of king pawn openings is I'll play like this. I'll move the knight out of the way. Let's say they make a move, and then I play f4, and we can trade this off. And actually, I probably would have brought this knight into the game first before sticking with the principles that I laid out for you guys. You know, to finish the development before you start doing pawn moves. But yeah, I would do something like this, and then, you know, we might get an open F file that our rook is active on, or we could even just advance this pawn and really shut black's pieces out of the king side, and then maybe we could get some sort of attack, like walk the queen over, some things like that. So a little more advanced, but just throwing some ideas out there for you guys. But this this F4 idea, though, I use this a lot. So remember this one in your games, especially in king pawn games. It's very helpful. Okay. So back to the game. So yeah, you know, fianchettoing here is fine. This was all fine as well. This was fine as well. This is a very powerful knight for them on an outpost. So taking it, not a problem. We mentioned this in the first run through. Let's finish the development first. So still got to get the pieces in. And I'm going to remind you guys when we do these second run throughs, repetition is part of learning. So, you know, I'm going to say some things twice on purpose, you know, just know that it's to help it sink in. All right, guys. So why don't you go ahead and pause the video here and try to evaluate what do you think are the best moves for white, and what are black's threats here? And you know, there's kind of some things you have to contend with. So give it some thought. So the main threat for black is they have this check, which basically is going to prevent us from castling and make our king sketch long term. So like, let's say you do like a normal developing move. They go check. If you want to try and maintain castling rights, you block, and then they're just going to take you. And now your king's stuck in the middle of the board. Things are looking not super great. They're going to take here, and long term, your king is just very, very vulnerable in the middle of the board with no protection. So not good, not good. So with that in mind, if you hadn't considered that before, why don't you pause again and try to evaluate what would you play here as white? So one plan that maybe you thought of, and I think this was Nathy's plan, was to play bishop h3, which is actually the top move according to the engine, because we developed the bishop with tempo on the queen, preparing ourselves to castle immediately. So if black, let's say, you know, moves the queen out of the way, then we castle and everything's all good, which is what happened in the game. However, black has a better move here. So why don't you pause? What should black play in this position? So there's an in-between move. They can still play this check. So they go check. And the best move here is basically to try and castle by hand. If you try to block, they're going to take, and then you're stuck in the middle. So yeah, the best move now is like king f1. Now they move the queen somewhere, and then you try to like untangle your pieces like this. So not very comfortable. Not very comfortable. And I want to point out that this is all brought on by the fact that we haven't castled yet. So we're just a little too underdeveloped here. So we got caught with our pants down, guys. This is what I was talking about earlier. So, you know, this bishop should have already been developed somewhere, and we should have already been castled. Knight should have already been out. So we shouldn't have had these problems. And let's assume now that black didn't have this threat, because actually, I mean, this is a pretty complicated position. The first time I recorded this part of the video, my analysis was faulty because I overlooked this threat. But let's assume for a moment they don't have this check. Then, positionally, what would you play here as white? If it were me, I think I would take the pawn. So, I mean, bishop h3 is also good, developing with tempo. But I think I would take here for a couple of reasons. Well, you could also develop, you know, there are multiple good moves. But the good thing about taking is now we've softened up the long diagonal, and our bishop can actually become a pretty powerful piece. And conversely, if we allow them to take here, so like let's say we do like a normal developing move like this, if we allow them to take, we can't recapture with the queen because of the knight, so we have to take this way. And looking at this formation, now they have a protected passed pawn, which is very strong. So protected meaning there's an adjacent pawn supporting it. And we also can't really attack this the like base of the pawn chain very easily. Versus if we look at a second ago, if we instead take this way, let's say they take with the knight, long term, this is a potential weakness for black. and, you know, we can bring a rook here and put some pressure. You know, they can maybe do some things like this, but then that opens some diagonals to, like, after the castle. I'm throwing a lot at you guys, but hopefully you're kind of getting the feel here that I think this would have been a strong positional move. However, it was not available to us because we haven't completed the development. So we still had problems in our position, or there are a lot of problems here in our position because we haven't completed the development. So I really wanted to hammer that home and give you like a concrete reason of how lack of development came to play in this game. But I mean, here I think they should probably throw in a check. So we're kind of lucky that they didn't do that. But yeah, so I would have taken here to soften this diagonal for the bishop. Developing the bishop here is also good. Not a problem. And yeah, here again, I think this is overextending a little bit. Our king is just not going to be safe long term. And we're going to run into problems, I think. So, I mean, yeah, here just a little bit of a tactical issue there. Now Nathi decides to take here, which is good. And they actually just win a pawn from that, which is nice. Although, sorry, I forgot. No. So pawn should take knight here, but aside from that move, this move is also good. So it was the second best move probably. And yeah, from here we're just fighting to the bitter end. So same stuff. Trying to get a stalemate, trying to get a draw. This was a really good move. Try to get rid of your pieces, guys, because if you start, like, let's say you start dancing around with the king, like, this isn't the same, because even if they accidentally sort of stalemate you, you have a pawn that can move, so it's not actually stalemate. So Nathi did the absolute right thing, and something you guys should do in your own games if you're in a stalemate scenario, or if you're shooting for stalemate. So yeah, I really like how they fought to the end in this game. And it didn't work out this time, but, you know, good game, Nathi. Good job. Okay, guys, so one last review of the lessons from this game. The main big notes. Number 1, finish development. Get all the pieces into the attack. Number 2, plan a safe place for your king. You know, pick one side. Are you going to castle queen side or king side? And make sure some pawns stay nearby so you're going to have some safety all game. Number 3, do puzzles every day. And number 4, I have that upcoming chess series that I think is going to be really helpful for you guys to learning all the basic fundamentals. And to close out, thank you again, Nathi Berg. Thank you for having the courage to put your name out there, put a game out there. And I hope this was helpful. Comment down below if you have any questions for me. Same thing goes for anyone watching this. Happy to discuss. And send me your games, guys. And if you haven't already checked out my Brush Off the Dust series, Brush Off the Dust like a 1700, I'll link to a video right here. It's me playing my actual games, commentating, and giving you my analysis in real time. That's it for today. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll see you in the next one.